This episode of Bullet Heaven was made possible by Playism.
ハウンド正体より司令部へ。予定通り突入ポイントへ到着した。
こちら司令室。ハウンド正体を確認。作戦を遂行してください。
これより制圧作戦を開始する。ガンハウンド、電気降下せよ。
こちらハウンド2、設置確認。
ハウンド3、設置確認。
In episode 95 of Bullet Heaven, we took a look at Astroport's gigantic army, a mechanized running gunner seemingly ripped straight out of the 90s. Giant robot-based running gun games are typically a great thing, and Gigantic Army delivered. Not to be outdone though, Playism has seen fit to release Dracu's Gunhound EX, an intense mecha-based side-scroller that takes things to a whole nother level.
Originally released as a Dojin title on PC, Gunhound made the jump to the PlayStation Portable from G.Rev as Gunhound EX in 2013. As such, the Playism and Steam versions of Gunhound EX are actually a port of the PSP version. It also contains a whole bunch of cool features. Let's take a closer look.
ハウンド2、合流地点の確保を急いでくれ。
了解。敵対空兵器の破壊を優先します。
Gunhound EX packs a lot of control into your 6 or so buttons that it primarily uses. Your movement will be very responsive, and your ability to boost with either an assigned face button or double tapping your directionals is very natural, as opposed to Gigantic Army's slow movement and janky dash mechanics. Aiming your guns is as easy as pressing up or down on the directionals. You can also see friendly units, enemies, and objectives on a linear cell radar on the bottom of the screen.
At any given time, you have access to 4 different weapons to lay waste to the fools that dare stand in your path. The main machine gun and hard blow are active by default, and the hard blow can be used to nullify enemy projectile attacks in addition to close-range melee damage. If you press and hold the alternate fire button though, you can enter anti-air mode, which boasts some seriously powerful fire that is still able to be used against ground-based enemies.
This is always a good thing, because your default weapons will be a bit on the weak side outside of the homing missiles that come standard on your Hound. As you collect points towards your total score though, additional weapons will be unlocked for use in subsequent playthroughs, whether you beat the game or not. This greatly heightens the replay value of Gunhound EX thanks to the many weapons that can be unlocked to not only make things easier, but also faster to nab additional bonus points. More on that later.
Gunhound EX is played over the course of 6 stages, if you count the final boss. The gameplay is varied enough that the game never really feels like it's dragging on, with fast-paced escort missions, straight-up shmup-style segments, and some nifty tricks that will surely throw you for a loop, sometimes literally. When it comes down to it, the gameplay is more or less very simple, yet challenging thanks to some really difficult boss battles, even in the easy mode.
Getting hit in Gunhound EX will reduce your armor gauge by varying amounts depending on what's hitting you. If you find that your armor is in critical condition, jettisoning it will replenish the count to full and increases your movement rate. However, further damage will be much greater. You can also obtain additional armor and repair pickups at certain points of the game from support choppers that makes appearances every now and again.
This is the kind of refined gameplay we live for. But it's not without a few problems. For starters, the controls are mapped to a keyboard by default and do not auto-map to a controller, despite having full controller support. In order to use the gamepad, which is highly recommended, you need to map out all of the commands manually, though a guide shows you where the best placement will be for each button.
Furthermore, only certain controllers will work for this. The awesome Hori Gempad EX seemed to not register at first, but the less than optimal official Xbox 360 pad did. But after setting up the standard 360 controller, the Gempad EX worked just fine, though the game needed to be reset with the Gempad EX plugged in. We also tried using the Sega Logistics USB Saturn pad with no success. Of course, with a controller mapper like JoyToKey, any pad should work. Once this admittedly tedious front-end setup was complete though, the game more than made up for it in actual gameplay. In the beginning of Gunhound EX, all you got is a handful of default weapons. As you continue through the game, picking up a high score will unlock new implements of destruction for you to take out swaths of mechanized legions that will try and inevitably fail to take you out.
Everything has a base score that adds to your tally, but only so long as there is time left in the counter at the top right hand of the screen. Once this counts down, all the enemies you kill will yield 0 score. Making it to certain checkpoints will allow you to replenish this timer, but if you're too slow in getting to the stage end, you won't be able to nab the high value boss scores. You can also obtain additional points for using various functions, like jettisoning your armor, for example.
This time attack style of scoring makes for a gameplay style that begs players to get faster and more refined in their gameplay to get the highest payout. There are no additional scoring points in Gunhound EX. Just destroy as much as you can, as fast as you can, and you're good.
It may seem shallow, but with better weapons will come a better score, and the only way to get the best weapons is to score high quickly. Of course, if you continue, your score gets reset to 0, but will add to the total score. Still, getting better and seeing the game through in one go is the best recourse, especially given the huge boss bonuses that can be obtained.
Of all of the mecha-based run-and-gunners we've ever played, Gunhound EX could easily have the best presentation we've seen yet. The level of polish this game has really makes for a game that you want to see to the end, if only to get the full experience.
Visually, Gunhound EX is a bit shaky, given that this is a PSP port. Because the visuals haven't been updated, the resolution isn't as good as it could be, and comes off a bit chunky. Despite this though, the sprite-based animation is nice and detailed. There was a lot of that typical doujin-style rotation-based animation in a lot of spots, but it actually still works rather well, all things considered.
There is also some pretty cool mechanical design at play in Gunhound EX, with awesome-looking robots, support units, and enemies that make the story and missions more believable as you play through them. With all of the support that makes an appearance, you can really tell that, by and large, you're not in this alone.
The audio is where Gunhound EX really shines. The entire story is completely voiced over both before a mission and during, which makes the missions you perform that much more believable. Granted, all of the dialogue is in Japanese, but still written notes so you can read it with a quick eye. The VO is also nice and natural, making for a fairly believable performance. There is even a smartphone app that can be linked to Gunhound EX with an ID code that will receive audio notifications of alert transmissions, adding a bit of metagame to the mix. Cool stuff, but only the iOS version isn't region locked. Bummer. There is also a cool online strategy guide in the start menu as well.
So, Gunhound EX is a pretty great game to say the least. Great presentation, great gameplay, and a score that does more than say you're the best. But how does it stack up? Let's take a look. Swift, very sharp control resides at the heart of Gunhound EX.
Paired with natural weapon functionality, the control in Gunhound EX is a winner.
The first few stages are cake, but the last few remind you that the icing is laced with Tabasco.
Tough but not impossible, Gunhound EX is a game with just the right amount of challenge.
Though there are only a total of 5 stages, plus the final boss and a special scramble stage, repeat plays will be required to unlock all of the weapons.
There is plenty to play here for run-and-gunners everywhere.
Though fairly chunky because of reduced resolution, what is here has some super slick design.
The stages and UI are also pretty fantastic.
Gunhound EX has one of the better OSTs we've heard all season. The sound effects are also top-notch.
Add to this some great VO with decent delivery, and Gunhound EX has some extremely solid sound overall.
Though on its surface Gunhound EX seems to be run-of-the-mill, its extreme sense of speed and agility, not to mention its additional meta features, are pretty cool.
The weapon unlock system based on total score is also less than common, making the system pretty interesting.
Gunhound EX is a game we've wanted to cover for a long time on Bullet Heaven, and its superb handling and awesome presentation have made it worth the wait. We'll definitely be importing G.Rev's PSP version, but for all of you out there that would prefer it on a bigger screen, not to mention with Steam achievements at a drastically lower price, the Steam version of Gunhound EX is the one to get. Gunhound EX gets a 4.5 out of 5. You can get Gunhound EX on Playism and on Steam for $15. Sure, there's a bit of a premium price compared to New Media's gigantic army, but this slick run and gunner is more than worth your 10 extra bucks.
Please check the number and try your call again.